This one. That one. Right, okay. Nice, we're on. Right, I'm just going to rotate you so you can meet the gang. You're on a stool, so you have to be careful.
You're too large. That's too large for us to be.
Yeah, that's you guys. That's a bit meta, isn't it? That's why it's called Big Heads.
We've made something for you here.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, guys. Here's the students. Right, let's get this going. So you're now with us in the shape of a stool and a big screen. Can I come over here, Rose? Is that all right? Am I getting away with it? Okay, so this is good. This is like the future. So I think for starters, how are you both? Are you well?
We're pretty good.
Yeah.
I was halfway through a fig roll and now can't do that anymore.
What a lovely biscuit. And you've got some tea as well. I'm using my Robinson's juice bottle. This is nice. Have you seen this, guys? Yeah. It's so great. And this. Did you have a nice little dinner, you lot? You had some nice food? Yeah? I had a boiled egg. Total game changer. What have you had to eat today, guys, apart from a fig roll?
Oh, just fig rolls. Fig rolls only here.
I don't have pie.
Nice. What, for breakfast then?
Having a delightful day.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
great.
times. Can we start by introducing yourselves, please?
Yes. This is Elizabeth Stewart.
This is Eleni Kalorkoti.
Hi, Gavin.
Nice to meet you both. Thank you very much. I think, I've sent you those questions, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. But then I was also thinking perhaps if you wanted to begin by, maybe we could try and do that screen share thing, and you might want to just show a few images, or I don't know, if you want to show us what you've been up to recently, that would be really interesting.
Okay, now we get rid of all the nonsense on my screen.
I have had this updated since we last spoke, so hopefully this is going to work.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can see half of something.
Okay.
Do I have to do the same as well, I wonder?
No, it's just don't hang up. Don't
Don't hang on. Thank you, guys. So what have you just clicked on share screen?
Yeah.
Why is it not asking me if I'd like to share screen with you? I feel a bit offended. So we can see both of you down here. Yeah, it's because, last time it just happened straight away, didn't it?
We're cursed.
Yeah, no, I think it's my fault. I've been to see an IT man about this, and he did his IT thing, but clearly his IT thing wasn't as effective.
Is that it's still down?
Still grey, innit?
I think it's because they've put share screen. You can't share yours.
Right, okay. But then how come I've not been... Wouldn't it be nice to have an invite to... Is there any way you can unshare screen and then share it again, just see if it works?
Yes, I can. Okay, stop sharing screen. Okay, I'm trying again. Any good?
Yeah, I'm just seeing like a big image, unless it's...
We can just...
Oh, whoa, yo! Woohoo!
Yay, did it work?
Right, we're in. Okay, good times. Right, so if I'm going to go full screen now, and then I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay. So, last year, I suppose now, I made a zine a month for the whole year, which was exhausting, and I don't recommend it, but I did some pictures that I like. This is one of the pictures that I like that I did.
Amazing. So,
I can show you a few more.
Can I just ask you about this? You're making a zine a month, and
Yeah.
how many images were you putting in each zine?
That depended on how much time I had and how much money I had to afford, like what I could afford to get printed.
Mm-hmm.
So some months I just did like an A3 poster that was double-sided that I then folded up. Those were the poverty months. And sometimes I did ones with a lot more images. Let's see if I can find one for you. So this one has lots more. Can you see it okay?
Yeah, lovely stuff.
Okay. So it was a lot of work, and some things I'm not proud of and some things that I am, which is kind of inevitable when you mix that many things.
Yeah.
I like these ones.
What was informing each zine? Were you kind of like responding to certain kind of pieces of research or things that were kind of bouncing off with you?
Each month it was just sort of whatever I was most into, whatever I've been spending my time watching or reading or listening to. So, but because there was not really much time to think about each one, I just sort of had to be quite immediate with what I was in the mood to do.
Okay.
Which sometimes means that I surprise myself by making things that I hadn't really overthought, and then sometimes means that things were not well thought out and that I didn't do a great job.
Right.
But sometimes it worked out.
Fantastic.
Okay, I'll let Lizzie show you some things. That's what
I need to think about. I don't really know what to show you because I think I've got images for specific questions.
I've not been on your website.
Eleni hasn't been on my website enough to have my email address, my website stuff. That is
Eleni.
okay.
Oh my god, I'm in trouble now.
It's a real sign of friendship, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've lived together for 2 years, but
You'd expect some Googling at least.
pretty much. Okay, so I don't know what to talk about. I finished my MA in July, an MA in communication design. So for the last 2 years, I was sort of doing that and hating that fairly solidly for a long time. So since then, I've been trying to improve my relationship with illustration and try and remember why I do it and why I like it and stuff. So straight after I graduated, I published a little book. So that's this little book.
Nice.
Looks like that. And that was like writing and drawing and just things that were like, it's amazingly self-indulgent. I think sometimes you have to do things that are like ridiculously introspective and navel-gazing, and only you will enjoy doing them, and they have no benefit to anything else except you. So this was like my MA project. I don't really know what to talk about.
Well, it's interesting, Lizzie, like you're talking about making work that's introspective and just for you, but do you also have a sense of how it's being received? I suppose it's the same for you as well, Eleni. Like, do you get a sense that it is still being received by an audience in a certain way, that perhaps work that you've not considered the audience as much when you made it has a different kind of resonance when people do start to read it or look at it?
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, I always talk this all the way through my MA. Like, consider your audience, and I think the things when you don't consider your audience often come out better, because the minute you're trying to second guess how someone else will react to an image or a piece of writing or whatever, it becomes something too contrived or overwrought or too considered. So for me, ignoring other people is really important.
Yeah,
but I
pay no attention whatsoever.
Paying no attention to what other people will think is really helpful. And then when people do see it, they tend to react better because they know it's come from a slightly more honest place or something similarly wanky to say.
But then it's interesting because both of you, you've been talking about, Eleni, you said like it was what you've been reading or watching, and Lizzie, you were talking about writing that you wanted to do or had been doing. And I think, I am sort of playing the tutor role here, but I am aware that both of you do have a deep and genuine relationship with kind of culture, literature, film. Like, yeah, thanks for that laughing. I don't think you're
each other to me. That's why.
right. Okay.
That's our deepest and most lasting relationship.
Right. Okay. So that in itself, for you two knowing each other, is informing the work as well. Do you think?
Yeah, and a lot of teasing, but yeah. But yeah, I think it's important to follow what you're into in terms of films or books or whatever, because the more specific you are and what you're interested in, the more precise your view of the world is going to be, and the less likely it is to be like anyone else's. So if you're into opera and Swedish kids books, then you're going to have a different view on the world to people who are into have something else. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you should make work based on the things you care about, because if you're just drawing the things you see other people drawing, you won't.
You'll go down a black hole of bad illustration. It's a bad place to be.
So what films have you been enjoying recently, Eleni?
What have I been watching? I've actually been watching loads of Twilight Zones on YouTube,
Right.
which is like the most highbrow thing I could be doing, but they're pretty good. Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm too excited for Wolf of Wall Street tomorrow, so I can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
It's too big a deal.
It does look good. All right. Well, shall we? I think it was nice to see some books, because I don't know if I mentioned, but this lot are all making books at the moment, and it's good to actually see them like stop and take a minute, because there's a lot of activity going on at the moment. So this is a good rest period for you guys, isn't it? But perhaps we could go on to talking about maybe other small press or zine book-related work you've done. Maybe is there any other examples of that kind of stuff we could look at?
Lizzie has a good example. Show your statistics.
Okay, so like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started press with my friend Jez Burrows, who's a graphic designer, and we publish books that are like fiction and illustration. And this is the most recent one that's backwards for you, I guess. And it's called You Are the Friction, and it's writing and pairing up writers and illustrators to work together and collaborate, swap work, and you can't see a thing, so I don't know why I'm flicking this through.
It's fine, Lizzie, because we've ordered it, so it's going to be in the library soon, so they can see it for themselves.
It's all right. I think it's a pretty good book. I can say that because I'm not in it. It's not like it's a great book. But I think doing that, we started it in a really kind of small way, just making this book between the two of us, collaborating and swapping his stories and my drawings and working from each other. And we didn't really think anyone would care, because we were students and no one knew who we were, and we handmade like 100 books. But we sold 100, and then we kind of got ideas above our station, I guess, and invited other people to take part in the next one. And that did, in a small way, that did really well. And it was a thing we really cared about, making books and making nice looking books that people would keep and treasure. And I think if that's a thing you're interested in, it's so worthwhile. I mean, it's not the most lucrative project, but it feels so nice to like spend time with what you care about. So like the illustrators and writers in this book are some of my favourite artists, and to be able to make something that includes them feels really special. And just making a tactile thing that people can hold. I spend so much time making images in Photoshop that never exist in the real world. So physical objects are pretty special, I guess.
Amazing. That's really good. Thank you. I mean, just so we understand the collaborative nature of how the work was made.
Yeah.
Am I right in understanding that isn't there something unusual? Like the illustrators have to work with. Don't the illustrators do some work first and the writers respond to it? Is that right? Or?
They both do work. So the writers will write a short story and the illustrators draw a picture, and then they swap. So then the writer does something based on where the illustrator's done, and the illustrator illustrates the story they've been given. So they all have two pieces of work in the book, and one of them will have come from somewhere they're in control of. So mostly they've drawn an image, that fits with their portfolio. But when you're given a story by an author you've never worked with, never met, it invariably sends you down a different route, and that's been quite interesting to see how people respond to that, I suppose.
We'll have to have a look when we get it in the library. It does sound really good. I think there's that idea of storytelling, and I've heard you talk about it before as well, that idea of making sense of information through drawing and through making pictures. And perhaps it doesn't quite sit explicitly in the category of illustration, but it's still a practice of responding to ideas or narratives through drawing. Is something, I don't know, is that something you think you've achieved in the book?
I think, in theory it's quite straight, like it's quite a straightforward illustration brief to be given a short story and make a picture that responds to that. and some of them are quite literal and illustrate directly from the text, and will take a sentence and just draw that bit. And then some of them have tried to, do something more holistic that explains the story as a whole or the mood of it. I think all of that is illustrative. You're finding an element that you want to explain, that you want to, I guess, illuminate. That's where the word illustration comes from. I don't know.
Okay, no, that's great. Really good. Hey, should we? I think you're doing really well with the kind of the strangeness of this setup. It's that.
It's really weird.
Yeah. Can you see your faces? Can you see the? You can't see your faces on the screen, can you?
We can see our tiny faces.
Right. Okay.
But
they're all
the
nice.
that they're large is disconcerting, to say the least.
Don't worry about it.
Do a project called Tiny Heads, where we're just on like an iPhone, and then everyone has to crowd around.
Okay. Next time we'll do that. Can we have a look at some of these questions then?
Okay.
Are there any that you feel like you've got a lot to talk about? Because we don't have to touch on them all. They're just sort of starting points for conversation, really. But are there any that you felt were like questions that you can answer happily and readily?
Do you want to see things that we're ashamed of?
Yeah, that's a good one. Just for the guys, just so you remember, one of the questions I asked these lovely people was, have you done anything recently that you weren't happy with? Why weren't you happy with it? Can we have a look? Can we have a look? It is a bit personal, but I think that's kind of the point, is that we're trying to demystify that process, this notion that like everyone's gifted and just does it straight away just because they're not students anymore. Like, I'm aware, I think you both make amazing work, but I'm aware you make mistakes and bad work sometimes. And I think as long as you can tell us why you weren't happy with it, then that perhaps, yeah. Sorry, I'll shut up. Go for it, Eleni.
Well, I'm not going to be, I don't have anything very eloquent to say, but I'm doing this for a project I'm working on just now for an Australian cemeteries trust. And I just think it's rubbish. Like, I just think this one picture is boring and unimaginative, and I have loads of pictures to do for them, and I just didn't have the time to think of something better, or I just was not on the ball enough to do that.
So tell us again, who's the client?
It's an Australian cemeteries trust, so like a place that runs a lot of cemeteries in Australia.
Wow, okay.
And so they're having new sort of brochures and stuff made up. And they wanted me to illustrate them because I'm who people think of when they think of their death.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So have you been given feedback from the client saying that they're happy with these concepts and they want you to go with them?
Yeah, so the part of the reason why this picture is rubbish, the part that's not my fault, is that the person who's hiring me is not an art director. Like, it's not someone that has any knowledge of illustration, really. Like, he's enthusiastic and helpful, but the jobs where you do something that surprises you that you were capable of doing it are usually the jobs where the art director is someone who truly understands the work that they're doing and is able to give you insightful feedback about what's not working, what's not interesting, what is just unclear about an image. And while I think this image is clear and does the job it's supposed to do, it doesn't do it very interestingly or really add anything, or it's just dull.
Right. I think it's interesting that about adding something that extra. Do you feel that that's like a goal that you try to achieve with your commercial work, that you can bring something else to the, not just to like complement the content, but to also bring something else a little bit more engaging?
Yeah, I don't know, show it in a sort of a particular, like I was saying before, like having a particular view of something. So just, even if it's something that's simple, showing it in a particular light that maybe wouldn't be the first thing everyone would think of.
Yeah.
So at least it's, engaging for someone to look at for more than a second.
Yeah.
But shall I let Lizzie talk about what she's ashamed of now?
Yeah, what are you ashamed of, Lizzie?
Okay, my lowest ebb is
These aren't lowest ebbs at all. It's
they
a
totally, oh my
It's a
god.
group.
So just after, oh no, wait, I think I was still, no, it was last summer. I got asked to do this children's book. It's not like a proper children's book, it's an educational children's book about immigration, which is a lot of fun. And Firstly, they say that you shouldn't have anything in your portfolio that you wouldn't want to do again. And this is 100% true. And I thought I'd been through my portfolio with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there was nothing in there that I didn't want to do again. But I hadn't really weighed up the fact that you shouldn't have something in your portfolio that you wouldn't be willing to do again 18 to 25 times.
Right.
So there was an image in there that I thought I was fine with. It was an editorial, and it was a one-off. But this client, like, we like that. Can you do it like that? But there's 25 illustrations, and it ended up. Oh, and firstly, they're horrible. They're just horrible.
Grumpy, the girl with
But,
the
like,
scarf.
I had to come up with a system for getting through all these images, and I hate them. And it was so depressing. But
Can you tell us why you hate them though, Lizzie? Like, I mean,
this is the thing that I genuinely struggle with. I struggle with making work for clients that is in any way to do with the work that I like. And I think that's a fairly common problem,
yeah.
is that the minute you're commissioned by someone, suddenly you're adding in someone else's opinion and you're trying to meet their expectations and all of that stuff. And I find that debilitating often. It just seize up, which is why I try and make my own stuff as much as possible and try and make prints and things that means that I don't have to do too much of this, because it does really stress me out. And for this, it was part of it being like an educational book, so all the images had to be like factual. They were specific places with specific people that they had photo reference of, and all of that was kind of quite limiting. And then the art director, again, as with Eleni's thing, having a good relationship with an art director is amazing.
Yeah.
But for this, I was working with the designer who was designing the book, who would then pass it on to the art director. So I never got to speak directly with the art director about what they wanted. So you're sort of second guessing, and then they'd come back with weird changes. And then there was one change, like halfway through the book, that made me so angry that I just kind of wrote the entire project off in my head.
Tell them what it is.
Because basically they asked me to make a character who was 18 years old in rural Ireland, thinner and prettier, because it was unfathomable that she'd be someone's girlfriend. And I, as a slightly angry young woman, I was like, no. If anything, I'm going to make her larger and uglier. There's no way that is the thing that I am doing. And just that sentence, I was like, you know what, this is probably not where my heart lies. And that's the worst way of working. Like, the minute you stop caring about something that you're working on, because like, you know, drawing and making art is quite an emotional process, even in the slightest way. That if your heart's not in it, it goes to pot. And this was horrible. I hate all these images so much. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. That was really revealing. I think there's some, there's a lot to take from it. I mean, I don't, has you guys got anything to say? Have you got any questions about what we've just seen or what we just heard?
Why did you draw that?
How long would it take you to get through a brief like that, where you had to do those series of images for the educational book?
Can you hear me? Cool.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, can you hear? But I'll show you.
Yeah. It was really, there were like two stages of roughs. You do really rough roughs, then you do slightly less rough roughs. And that took like a month, because it took ages for them to give their feedback, because they had like one editorial meeting a week. So if you submit all your roughs at the end of the week and they don't have their meeting till the end of next week, it slows up proceedings. But then it was the same with the illustrations. It took, I think I did them really quickly, because I think he ended up doing 25 in a week and a half, because they'd been so slow at feedback, and their deadline was like, yeah, we've been really slow, but the deadline is still next Friday, so off you go. But it made me a bit crazy.
Yeah.
I think it made me a bit
Yeah,
crazy.
a bit crazy.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, off the back of that then, could we perhaps look at some projects that you feel like were really successful, or you see something in them that you really like or pleased with?
It's probably for
Yes. Okay. So this one was for themes. So I've been doing quite a lot of work on the computer. Like I always drew everything out by hand, but then coloured stuff on the computer. And I was just